Please be seated. Trustees, Excellencies, students, faculty, staff, administration, alumni, and friends of the American University of Beirut, welcome to Opening Day 2023, the 158th opening day in the storied history of our university. This year, after 4 years of conjoined crises that have plagued Lebanon, we can confidently state that the American University of Beirut has not merely started to recover, it has started to flourish. Numbers reveal only part of this story. This is the second consecutive year with a net increase in the numbers of faculty and staff across the campus and the AUB-NC. We're enjoying uplifting recruitment outcomes with over 120 new, young and seasoned faculty members having joined in the last 24 months, while more and more of our academic stars have been returning from productive and skill-extending leaves. A record number of research and educational grants have come through our doors over the last 3 years, highlighted by, among others, our largest ever scholarship grants from USAID, MEPI, and the MasterCard Foundation that will allow us to educate exceptional graduate and undergraduate students, citizen leaders, and change makers from Lebanon, the Levant, and Africa, and the rest of the Global South, and to continue advancing enablers of student success at AUB. This fall term, incoming student numbers and quality are particularly strong. In fact, they are the strongest they've been since 2019, with more than 2,700 new paid and confirmed undergraduate, graduate, and medical students launching into their chosen course of study at AUB. Our academic programs are world-class, and it'll be a top priority for us to ensure that our future graduates continue to enjoy substantive career and postgraduate opportunities. We have grown and started to expand beyond our iconic original Beirut campus. In keeping to our vital strategic plan, we will inaugurate our first ever twin campus in Paphos, Cyprus in 2 days. AUB Mediterraneo will embark with its first cohort of undergraduate and graduate students, and our goal is to reach 2,000 students there by 2035. Our first ever permanent university branch outside the cozy confines of Ras Beirut will develop into a European base to complement our home in Beirut. Complement, not replace. I've said it a lot, I'm going to say it again and again. We foresee a university which will eventually become as deeply rooted and impactful in the everyday lives of the peoples of Cyprus, Greece, and beyond, as our current one is for the Lebanese, Palestinians, Jordanians, Syrians, and Iraqis who have long considered AUB their university. We've also doubled down on our commitment to Lebanon by purchasing our first ever community hospital, the Kisarwan Medical Center, with the final closing taking place tomorrow when we will officially own it. Already the largest hospital in the Kisarwan region, our plan is to double the bed capacity over the next decade to serve the peoples of North Lebanon by bringing them world-class AUB-MC quality care. And this is as it should be, because the people of North Lebanon and their former Prime Minister, Rashid Karami, actually saved AUB during the Lebanese Civil War. Our extraordinary trustees are planning a major fundraising drive to raise badly needed state-of-the-art capital equipment for AUB-MC, which has long been the finest medical center in the region. And where's Trustee William Zughbi? I believe I got my marching orders today. These efforts will expand our national health capacity and enable AUB to better serve the people of our home nation, making good on our mission to be more deeply rooted and impactful in the lives of the Lebanese people than we have been for many decades. That conviction to be more impactful is backed by the unstinting wisdom and generosity of our Board of Trustees, who have approved the allocation of $165 million over the last several years to support the decoupling of university finances from the rapidly devaluating Lebanese currency. This financial support package has allowed our faculty and staff to look more confidently to their futures, where they will be able to not only care for their families, but excel in their chosen careers, and eventually to retire in dignity and comfort, something that has long been a major concern for our community, and I would argue was among my greatest priorities when I came here. We are cautiously confident that by mid to late 2024, faculty, physicians, and staff will receive well over 90% of their 2019 compensation in US dollars and factoring in additional promotions and raises. Critically, this transformation, and it is in fact a transformation, has not come at the expense of any one of our core constituencies, our students, staff, faculty, or physicians. During my first opening day remarks 8 years ago, I proposed the need to teach our students to fly without a safety net. As the national safety net is eroded completely with the collapse of the Lebanese state, we have increased our total educational financial support from just over $50 million in 2015 to over $110 million in 2023. This has meant that our student community today is more economically diverse than it has been in more than 5 decades. Today, over 20% of our students are educated for free. We've also managed to maintain considerable diversity in our international students and faculty. 1/4 of our faculty and almost 1 in 5 of our students at AUB are international, a number that is certain to climb as our Mediterranean and AUB online enterprises grow. Our AUB community has safely navigated this dire period in Lebanon and the region's history, emerging the stronger for it. Our journey of the last 4 years was painful. We suffered, struggled, resisted, and persisted as one AUB community of nurses, doctors, faculty, staff, and students. We made difficult decisions, adhering always to our mission and principles. Our alumni and friends stood and supported us with their generosity and their dedication. They are studied in the faithful participatory diaspora, the extension of the concept of the university as a mini-nation, one with its own ideals of citizenship, belonging, and accountability. Despite the much lauded resilience and success of the Lebanese and their fellow Levantines as immigrants in other nations, the actual Lebanese experiment in nationhood continues to flounder. The struggles of the otherwise anti-fragile Lebanese to flourish like the cedar in Lebanon, as the oft-quoted biblical phrase indicates, is simultaneously a source of consternation and mystery. The reasons for that are at once complex and obscure, but many of the fundamental challenges revolve around basic principles of citizenship and its attendant responsibilities. I am no social scientist, nor am I expert in the affairs of nations. But a lifetime as a diligent observer of human nature, as a skilled practitioner of medicine, its unique admixture of the arts and the sciences has seasoned and informed me on humans and their enabling or disabling environments. Why, after a seeming golden era with a rising arc in poetry, the arts, medicine, engineering, architecture, economics, and banking, spanning a period whose aegis is well recalled by all but seemingly the peoples of this region, do the Levantines appear to be children of a lesser God? Why can they despairingly state, in the words of Alfred Lord Tennyson's dying King Arthur, "For why is all around us here as if some lesser God had made the world, but had not force to shape it as he would?" Undoubtedly difficult and complex, addressing our own society's flaws openly and transparently is a requirement for legitimate progress. Careful, constructive criticism of others takes objectivity, precision, humility, and no small amount of tact. Transparent self-criticism requires all those qualities and more. It takes genuine courage to examine one's virtues and flaws dispassionately with a determination to improve. Aristotle defined the acquisition of courage accordingly Courage, he states, involves pain and is justly praised, for it is harder to face what is painful than to abstain from what is pleasant. What is it that the Levantines have lacked the courage to face? What brings them short of the expected bar, leading some to believe that indeed some lesser God had made the world, but had not force to shape it as he would? There is no shortage of credible reasons for the failure to date of the diverse and culturally rich Lebanese experiment to congeal into a viable and sustainable nation state. Deep confessional influences, accentuated by an unholy alliance between the quote-unquote leading political families, that is to say the nation's religious leaders and the merchant class, augmented by French colonialism and its manifest ambitions for lasting influence in the region, led to the establishment in 1920 of l'État du Grand Liban, grand in name, but absent a self-sustaining industry and character that would successfully allocate and distribute both wealth and opportunity. Much blame rightly accrues to the 1943 National Pact, which undermined full constitutional rights by allocating to the three largest religious sects the greatest offices of the land, thereby setting off lasting internal discord and competition, disenfranchising other communities, and depriving the Lebanese of awarding the major leadership posts to the best candidates for the job. Instability in the regions, the after effects of artificial national boundaries triggered by Sykes-Picot and French colonialism all caught fire after the British partition of Palestine, the birth of the colonial nation-state of Israel, and the inevitable wars of partition and division. This led to convulsions around shared Arab identity, triggered by the refusal of the British to honor their pledges made during the First World War, and they did not honor them at the end of that war, leading to competing agendas and parties while undermining their common cultural and political heritage and destiny. All these reasons are real, but they fail to reflect the critical absence of national self-reflection and subsequent course correction. A reflection that examines the interrelated concepts of citizenship and civic education. Our students overwhelmingly come from nations of the global South that were under colonial rule or influence well into the middle part of the last century. These countries, like Lebanon and its Levantine neighbors, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, have all struggled with the transition to inclusive citizen-led states. The connect between students from these countries, the Levantine countries and the global South, Africa, as an example, is profound, and it manifests itself through shared academic projects, clubs, and common causes we have the privilege to observe. Our students often experience citizenship in all its various aspects and responsibilities for the first time while at AUB. Citizenship was first conceptually defined by the ancient Greeks. Aristotle expended great efforts to enunciate its guiding principles, tying citizenship to his theory and ethics of the virtuous human life. He defined good citizenship not by birth or by status, but rather through participation, accountability, and political authority. Aristotle considered a good citizen in the ideal state identical to the fully ethical, virtuous person, placing great importance on the civic educational process, an approach which has greatly influenced modern social democrats, communitarians, and others looking to revive the relationship between civic education and participatory communities. By the way, I grew up in a house where communist was not a dirty word. Citizenship indeed revolves around ethics, but also accountability and a deep sense of belonging to a community or a nation state. The same sense of belonging that coalesces from citizens and their celebrations of shared culture. Missing then is this concept of citizenship here. Missing in it is a shared accountability for the affairs of the nation, of the consequences of partisan political action, detrimental to the greater good of the nation. The kind of partisan political actions, sadly, we see reflected not just in Lebanon, but in the United States, France, Russia, and the other great states. That accountability is something Aristotle and others would posit is well worth investing substantial effort in, and it is conspicuously missing from the national educational curriculums in Lebanon. In my youth, the national program here taught one semester of civics during 7th grade, never to be revisited again. While civics has not disappeared entirely from the Lebanese curriculum, it has effectively vanished from the curriculum as a valuable topic. Conventional methods used in teaching civics are falling short of promoting the vital skills and engagement necessary for successful citizenship education. Indeed, citizenship education in Lebanon tends to rely on rote learning, with teacher-centric lessons promoting established political and religious beliefs. Don't take my word for it. Those are the words of the great Professor Salma Abu Jawdi, who is the Dean of Science Education in the region and of civics. So we at AUB receive young men and women of great promise. Over the course of 3 to 7 years they spend with us, that you spend with us, we share and together put in practice our value and belief systems. We ensure that, as Daniel Bliss so memorably said, the college is for all conditions and classes of men, without regard to color, nationality, race, or religion. A man, and back then in the 19th century it was only men, a man, white, black, or yellow, Christian, Jew, or Mohammedan, may enter to enjoy the advantages of this institution for 3, 4, or 8 years and leave it believing in one God or no God or many gods. But it will be impossible for anyone to continue with us for long without knowing what we believe to be the truth and the reasons for that belief. What we believe to be the truth and the reasons for that belief. What we believe is that there can be no meaningful accomplishment absent honest effort, no true advancement or success without collegial, sincere regard and treatment of others, that there can be no sense of citizenship, no belonging, without accountability. These core beliefs are ours, but they must now become the watchwords of this nation and the nations we serve. Accountability. To be effective, the inculcation of ethics, accountability, and other principles of citizenship must be introduced and embedded at an early age. We watch with growing alarm and even dismay the erosion of both investments in quality in public schools and the higher education sector, a trend we observe not just in Lebanon. Aristotle was an educator as well as a philosopher. He believed the Greeks, whose culture his most famous pupil, Alexander the Great, would spread to all corners of the known world, should mandate instruction in the ethics and principles of citizenship. That the intervention must be clear and consistent, as both Aristotle and Bliss have noted, is critical such that people cannot continue in their schools of thought for long without knowing what we believe to be the truth and the reasons for that truth. Like all universities, the American University of Beirut relies on the schooling of applicants from a young age to prepare them for the responsibility, accountability, and sense of belonging to a successful community that citizenship is predicated on. To achieve that goal, we must engage as AUB far more rigorously and wholeheartedly in K through 12 education, and perhaps even earlier. Part of that obligation is to intentionally help inculcate an ethical culture, but also to provide hope by teaching a more holistic approach to human, global, regional, and national history. For example, an important component in such a history of Lebanon, and one that provides hope for a better future, is the knowledge that between 1920 and 1970, 50 years, Lebanon's culture and people were, while imperfect, progressive, widely admired, widely emulated. Progressive, widely admired, widely emulated. Words you don't hear today. A history of failure can often beget future failure, while a culture with known and understood successes and failures can help lead the way to the resumption of the successes. There is much success in the Lebanese national experiment from which hope can be gleaned, and AUB will be placing considerable efforts in reinvigorating discussions around this and citizenship education within its faculties and schools, centers, and institutes, and we fully intend as best we can to metastasize in a benign way to the states of the region. That is part of our obligation to our citizen students and to our mission. Therefore, as we prepare to launch the latest phase in the long and distinguished annals of the American University of Beirut, let us do so through broader engagement and through an even more robust commitment to our community, young and old. Let us help them become true citizens of not only our community, but true citizens of their nations and of the world, at a time when the world needs more committed citizenship, when global warming and partisan strife threaten the future of our planet. Universities like to advertise that they graduate leaders. We want AUB to graduate citizens, citizen leaders. Let us leave today committed to empower those who trust and depend on us, one citizen at a time, so that they are, to paraphrase Tennyson's words and to turn it around a little bit, children of no lesser God, but rather dreamers, strivers, and builders of a better world, one where no such lesser gods exist. Thank you.